UFC Mexico City. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. I'm looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card. So make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure you share the video too. And also note, I will be live for the entire UFC Mexico City fight card Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss the fight, companion. And let's get into the first fight of the night. Austin Hubbard versus Markel Mederos. I got to go with Markel Mederos to win this fight. He seems to have definitely more upside potential. 28 years old, Factory X Muay Thai gym. The striking skill set, I think, is there, and it looks pretty clean. Boxing on the inside is good. Also, when he's fighting from range, he's pretty comfortable. Attacks the legs very well, as most guys from that Factory X Muay Thai team do. And I think he's just simply cleaner and more efficient on the feet than Austin Hubbard, while also seeming pretty competent in the grappling. It's not like Hubbard has this elite caliber grappling skill set where he can, spam takedowns and impose his will on Mederos. I can see him shooting takedowns and Mederos defending them, and then the speed advantage being pretty obvious. Hubbard's a decent scrapper on the feet. His kickboxing isn't bad, but definitely does not have great speed. Also, like, historically, a bit of a slower starter. And I think Mederos can, get out to an early lead, catch him with some big shots in round number one, and build upon it. Mederos has knockout potential in this fight. Hubbard normally is pretty tough, though, has a solid chin, and he's got a good amount of fights, right? This is his 25th pro fight, so he's been doing this a while. He's a tough journeyman. With Hubbard, you're always in a scrap, but I do think he gets outworked pretty handily by an aggressive guy like Mederos, who's cleaner in the striking department, and I feel like he's on his way to a win. Now, I'll say this. In the debut, Mederos did get caught by some good shots against Landon Quinones, but also Landon Quinones is pretty underrated. So I feel like, you can look at that and say, well, Quinones 0-2 in the UFC. Hubbard, not really a great UFC record, but Ultimate Fighter finalist, has a win, 2 fights ago. But I'll argue that Quinones is cleaner in the striking flow and a little bit faster. I think Hubbard at that speed disadvantage is going to struggle in this one right here. Also, with the feinting game of Mederos, I expect some nice shots to sneak through, and I think there's going to be big punches and kicks. Possibility of knockout, I'll say like decision or KO. I guess we'll sit on it for a bit, and looking at the betting side, when the odds of, the props come out, we can kind of get an idea if maybe is worthwhile to go for that if you're going to gamble on this one. But I do think Mederos wins. 2-1 favorite, second UFC fight. Absolutely incredible Contender Series win where he was super impressive with the knee knockout. Austin Hubbard, gritty journeyman who's here to scrap. He's going to give it as much as he can go. Like, Austin Hubbard is not a guy who breaks. He's going to go hard for all three. I think Mederos getting tested a bit by Quinones and forced to go 3 hard and getting cracked a bit in the first round helps him in a matchup here, and I think he looks even better than then. So I'm going to say Mederos to win. -200, the fave. Like I said, knockout or decision. We'll see what the prop side looks like. I can see Mederos putting his shots together and putting Hubbard away, but then there's the flip side of it all that, Hubbard is normally pretty durable, eats a good shot. I think that could be defensive if Mederos starts having success and survive till the end. It seems like they think over 2.5 is very likely. -300 for the over 2.5. Mederos outstriking Austin Hubbard seems pretty close to a certainty to me. I think he's going to be too quick, too clean, and I don't know, too explosive. Also, I actually feel like explosiveness advantage, kind of like all the fast twitch fibers favor Mederos. Faster, more explosive, more powerful. Hubbard's tough, though. Hubbard's gritty. Hubbard's got heart. But Mederos is going to win the fight. So we're going with the prospect, Markel Mederos, to win this one. Now, just bit of an intangible. Initially, Austin Hubbard had stepped in on short notice to fight Daniel Zellhuber. Zellhuber gets injured. Mederos steps in there to fight against Austin Hubbard. So 2 guys coming in on short notice, essentially, for this spot. Completely different matchup. Goes from Zellhuber versus Brenner to now turns into Hubbard versus Mederos. I still think Mederos, young guy in his 20s, stays in great shape. Should be good to go for a hard 3. And I'll say he gets the win. So Markel Mederos to start the card off. Let's keep running up. Next one, Jamall Emmers versus Gabriel Miranda. I'm going to do it.
I'm picking Gabriel Miranda to win by submission, and I think that Emmers could be washed. Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. No, Emmers was cracking Nate Landwehr. His boxing's pretty good. It is pretty good. His boxing's clean. It's a little reckless and wild, though. And if he doesn't get Miranda out of there with that chaotic attack of Emmers that he showed against Landwehr, I could see him being overly aggressive and getting caught in a weird grappling scramble. Say what you want about Miranda getting finished last time out by Morgan Charrier. He was knocked out clean. Did have Charrier's back in the first round. You dig the fight before, quickly submitted Shane Young, who at one point actually was like a talented up-and-comer. And then fight before that, I mean, he wasn't a good scrap with BSD. Yeah, he got fucked up. It was up in weight, but he was hitting BSD with big shots, and he was like sitting in the fight, firing back. That's a guy who's a lot bigger than Jamall Emmers. I feel like Miranda could surprise people. He's kind of like that freak factor underdog. High-level jiu-jitsu skills, very much a brawler in the striking, and Emmers is going to have cleaner striking technique, but I just see the possibility of Emmers getting overly aggressive, attacking Miranda, Miranda having some ability to counter strike and fire big shots back, and if they tie up and go to the mat, I think that Miranda is a lot faster in his transitional speed. I know that Jamall Emmers has some jiu-jitsu. I know he's got a bit of a wrestling background, but I would not consider him an MMA grappler. I would think of him more so as a boxer puncher, and he has power in his hands and speed and uses grappling in a defensive manner. And at times, like, he could showcase it, but I feel like Miranda's jiu-jitsu is a lot better than Emmers. I feel like I said, slicker and faster in the transitional speed. Though he doesn't have the cleanest of striking, Miranda is a good brawler. And he could turn this into a dirty fight. And I know people say, oh, Miranda's chin is shit. He's been finished. I don't know if I fully believe that. Like, I just think Miranda's one of those weird and awkward fighters that beats a more clean guy like Jamall Emmers, man. Jamall just, like last time out, right? He was doing great against Nate Landwehr early. Then he got fucked up. He got fucked up bad. He took a lot of damage in that fight. And then the fight before, easy win against Dennis Bazooka. Ran through him. That was an amazing performance for him, okay? It was a great win. The fight before that, you're like, oh, well, it was close with Jack Jenkins. Yeah, but like Jenkins is more technical, right? When he fought a brawler that digs deep, he got finished by Nate Landwehr. When he fought a tricky jiu-jitsu guy, he got subbed up by Pat Sabatini. I have this weird theory that these unorthodox and kind of wild men styles, similar to what Miranda may bring, who pose now not only a striking threat of some pop in his hands. It's not like Miranda has no stand-up. He's not technically sound, but he's tough. He's scrappy. I know he's always losses. He's got no chin. Maybe he doesn't have a great chin, but I'm telling you, he does have very tricky grappling skills and strong will to win. And if he can survive Emmers' onslaught, and Emmers, I do believe, is a type of fighter, especially in a matchup here, where if he finds some success, he will get over aggressive, looking to put the stamp on the win and get this fight done with. On the mat, Miranda is very live to pull off a submission. With his weird jiu-jitsu, I could see a back take. I could see a submission. I'm just envisioning a weird scramble that leads to Miranda strangling Emmers in this fight, and I can't stay away from that feeling. Emmers is the better striker. Emmers is the more athletic guy. Miranda is better at jiu-jitsu and a lot faster on the mat, and I think those aspects of the fight with the awkwardness / wild man striking style that he brings to the table could be enough to beat a Jamall Emmers at 35. Now, both guys are 35. I know. Younger UFC career for Miranda, though, right? 3 UFC fights for him. Emmers, excuse me. Got to sneeze on this one. Is a sneeze good or bad luck for a fight pick? I actually don't know. I think it's good luck. I'm seeing a weird position where Miranda pulls off something strange. It's like logic says Emmers should knock him out, but then I just see Miranda taking his back and choking him and pulling off some weird win. One of those like wild Brazilian upsets. We've seen it in other matchups, right? Felipe Bunes taking out Johnson, right? Johnson, more athletic guy, cleaner striking, think that he's got a fair shot, then he ends up getting subbed up. I think Miranda could sub him up here. And I think that's a very unpopular pick. And I get it, right? Because Emmers, if he's calm, outstrikes him, picks his shots, lands the KO. But what happens if Miranda ties up with him, drags him to the ground? Emmers on the ground with Miranda, I think he's a fucking fish in the water with the shark. I know he's got okay jiu-jitsu, but Miranda is dangerous on the mat, man. And I got to say, I think there is a possibility of one of these wild Brazilian upsets. So I'm going to twirl the mustache before I read the odds off for good luck for Miranda. All right, look at this. This is the Miranda stash, essentially. We're looking right at it. I need a little gel in it to get it to stay up. Odds for the fight, Miranda, big underdog, plus 285. I just think he's too wide of a dog. Plus 180 at open makes sense to me. That's not a crazy line. Emmers, minus 350, now a really big favorite. I do think this fight goes under 2.5. Under 2.5, minus 170. Yeah, high likelihood of a finish. Under 2.5 seems like a near certainty in the matchup because I think somebody's getting finished. And I think it ends one of two ways. Miranda by submission or Emmers by KO. I don't really think there's much of a gray area in the in-between. Yes, Emmers is the better boxer. Yes, he's faster at striking. But Miranda can still crack. He can still punch. And he can still mix shots in there. This isn't boxing. This is MMA. And the weird and wild style of Miranda, I could see him finding some success against a tactical guy like Jamall Emmers, taking his back and strangling him. And I'm going to go with Gabriel Miranda to pull something weird off in the fight. I don't know where Emmers is at. I don't know why I feel this. That fight against Landwehr, it worries me. Yeah, he looked good early. I know he hurt Landwehr, but Landwehr also very hittable, as is Miranda, to be fair. But something tells me this fight ends up on the mat. And something tells me Miranda pulls off a bit of a shock factor. So I'm going with Gabriel Miranda as an underdog in this fight to keep his UFC career alive. I think he's very live to pull something crazy out. I'm saying submission win. I'm going Miranda. I think he can pull through. Next fight on the card, we got Rafa García versus Vinc Pichel. I'm picking Rafa García. I feel like this is more of a battle of time, really, right? Pichel, 42 years old, still got grit, still tough, still wants to be in there, still ripping heavy leg kicks, still picks his shots pretty well. A bit of a looping puncher, though. Not super clean with his hands. Rafa García is going to have a boxing advantage. He's better with combination punches. He's cleaner with his boxing, simply. And I think he also has probably a better wrestling game at this point, man. Like Pichel at one point, I would say his wrestling was strong, but he's 42 years old. I think that the miles on the car are catching up to him a bit. Now, he doesn't have that many fights, right? It's kind of crazy to see that the more experienced guy is the dude literally 12 years younger. But Pichel's been at it for years, man. And he's a tough customer each and every time. Like, I feel like he's a gritty OG veteran who brings 100% of himself into these fights. I mean, at one point, he had a nice win streak. Like, Vinc Pichel at one point, what did he have in a row? 3 wins in a row? He had things cooking up. I mean, he had, early UFC losses, but Rustam Khabilov lost. Then he goes on a fucking tear, wins 4 fights, loses 1, wins 3. I mean, pretty amazing. He was on fire for a while. And then, got to Mark Madsen in 2022 and he lost. And I know Mark Madsen was undefeated at the time, but Madsen got exposed pretty bad later. He's not a high caliber guy. And then Bonfim wins a unanimous decision. Bonfim very calculated and technical, picked apart Pichel, and Pichel had okay leg kicks in the fight, but he was throwing kind of looping shots, even got taken down by Bonfim. I feel like Rafa García, one of those gritty customers that is definitely getting better each and every time, training with Cub Swanson's team. And I feel like the skill set is pretty live. He could mix in some takedowns. He can land some decent shots on the feet. He's had to overcome and win, competitive back and forth fights. And I feel like the tight guard is a positive factor. With Pichel liking those looping shots, I think the tight guard of Garcia works nice here. I see him blocking those looping shots and then landing more straight shots on the return fire. I feel like Garcia hits with a bit of pop, but definitely not a knockout artist. Say physical conditioning's pretty good. I think he's ready for 3 hard. Could time some key takedowns. Coming off of a really rough loss, but it's against Grant Dawson, who's a fucking monster right now. Before then, he beat Clay Guida. He beat Mahashata. The Jakar Close loss, I mean, it's forgivable. Close is decent. And then the Jesse Ronson win doesn't mean much. I just feel like Rafa García, younger guy, probably still showing improvements, right? Coming into his prime now versus a 42-year-old Pichel. I just can't bring myself to pick a 42-year-old Pichel who lost to Mark Madsen in, 2 fights ago, 2022, 3 years ago, and then the last fight was 10 months ago. The inactivity, I mean, now he's starting to get a bit more active, but still, for the most part, not an active fighter. As much as his leg kicks are pretty nice and his looping shots are clean, I think Garcia can deal with that, land straight shots down the line, and I feel like Rafa Garcia for a unanimous decision makes a ton of sense, but I will tell you, the odds for this fight had me scratching my head. Minus 500 for Rafa Garcia just didn't make sense to me. At open, even minus 350 is wide. Minus 250, we can have a conversation, but minus 350, man? Minus 500 actually now, but minus 350 at open is kind of crazy to me. Like, Rafa Garcia is decent. He's in shape, but Pichel can still scrap a bit. And, fuck, man. You got to lay a lot of chalk down on Rafa. I don't really feel like it's worth your while right now, at least. At least Sunday night, I'm not feeling like it's worth your while. I think Rafa outworks him over 3. Lands bigger shots. I think Pichel will rip him with some heavy kicks. Rafa Garcia, I don't want to say he's susceptible to leg kicks, but he definitely could be kicked hard here by Pichel because Pichel attacks those legs nicely. He's training with Factory X. Over 2.5 is minus 275. I think 29-28 is live, maybe 30-27. I think Garcia does enough, though, to outwork a Pichel, lands cleaner shots, wins the significant strike battle, and also potentially the battle of position. Like, I could see Garcia hitting takedowns on Pichel, and I can see him pushing hard in round 3 and winning. And I feel like at 42, Pichel could potentially fade in the later stages. So I'm going to go with Rafa Garcia. I see him getting a unanimous decision over Pichel in this one here. Let's keep running up. Next fight on the card, we got Julia Polastri versus Lupita Godinez. I'm going to pick Lupita Godinez. Her high-level experience should pay off in a matchup like this. Now, Julia Polastri is a pretty talented up-and-comer. Started off her UFC career with the loss. Knudsen ended up beating her, but then she followed up with a win. But, a split decision over McKenna. There was positive takeaways, though, to be fair, right? Like, she showed pretty decent striking in the fight. Good, like, Brazilian-esque Muay Thai striking style. Pretty athletic girl. Moves well. Solid jiu-jitsu. Not great wrestling, but physically imposing and definitely a good athlete. On the opposite side, Lupita Godinez with that like high-end tight guard Mexican boxing style does have a bit of a hand speed advantage, and I'd consider her the better boxer in close range. Also, on top of that, you have to favor Lupita Godinez with the wrestling chops. I think she's got better takedowns, better control. Not a big power hitter as Lupi, but she's definitely a workhorse and does have a solid gas tank. And I expect a hard 3-round fight with key exchanges won by Lupita Godinez, key takedowns landed, finishes the fight strong. And I think Lupi for a unanimous decision makes a ton of sense here. I mean, coming off 2 losses, but when you look at the losses, there's positives to take away. Mackenzie Dern loss. Is that really bad, right? For the level she's fighting at here? Sure, it's bad if you want to, fight for the belt, but taking on Julia Polastri, a Mackenzie Dern loss is still a lesson in its experience. And then Verna Jandiroba. Jandiroba is a maestro of jiu-jitsu, and that's a really hard match. And then fight before, close decision win against Tabitha Ricci, who's pretty good. I just feel like the level jump. A year and 4 months ago, beating Tabitha Ricci versus a year, 6 months ago, she's beaten Luas on the damn Contender Series for Polastri, right? So, like, level of competition is way different. And beating McKenna, she won that fight. Like, you look at Split and you might think, oh, is it a right? She won the fight. It was competitive against, Knudsen, but okay, 2 fights ago, losing to Knudsen, and then now you're going to go in and beat Lupita Godinez? I don't think so. I'm pretty confident Lupi outworks her over the 3 rounds and takes a unanimous decision home. This is the type of matchup that Lupi wins, right? Fellow prospect fights she tends to do good in, and I feel like at this level she should thrive. I think she's live for a 30-27. With Lupi, you never know, she could end up selling around or so, like, cause I don't know, at times Lupi disappoints me, but she's still coming into her own. She's 31, so I guess now she really should be in her prime. 12-5 as a pro, but like quality level, very consistent fighter, fighting top level girls. It goes from elite opposition to now fighting a 1-1 girl in the UFC. Like, you gotta favor Lupi to take it home pretty handily. Now, as far as the odds for the fight, Lupi at -220, she's actually a pretty good line. with the women's fights. I mean, a lot of, women's dogs people be attacking, but like certain ones, like the Dayanara Molly McCann fight, and like this matchup here, Godinez Polastri, you got to look at it as it is. Godinez should win. She should outwork her. Minus 220 is a fair tag. At open, she was minus 300, so it's actually better than even it was at open. Over 2.5, minus 575. Yeah, we're probably going all 3 rounds. When you look at Lupi Godinez, man, 7-5 in the UFC, but did put together a really nice 4-fight win streak throughout 2023. And then, yeah, rough 2024, but losing to like the top level. Whereas like Polastri on the other side hasn't even touched that level. She hasn't gotten to that point of like fighting to that tier of competition. So you got to favor Godinez to win. I'm picking her here in this fight. Initially, Polastri was actually supposed to be fighting against Horigi, and she stepped in, and the things just went sideways. She stepped in for Barboza, who was supposed to fight Horigi. Then, Horigi pulls out, and then Lupi steps in on short notice. But Lupi's the type of girl that stays in shape, and I don't think that gas tank woes are a likely issue for her in this matchup here. And I'll say that Lupi Godinez live for a unanimous decision. I feel pretty good about it. Let's keep running up the card. Next fight, we got Melquizael Costa versus Christian Rodriguez. Ooh. I'm picking Melquizael Costa. I'm picking Melky Costa. I have to. This is the type of matchup that C-Rod tends to lose. When he's expected to win, when he's a favorite in the fight, and he's taking on a guy who is, also more of a contender, right? He's not taking on a prospect. He's taking on a guy that, is going into his 30th pro fight here. Melquizael Costa's been around for a long while, even if, he's relatively speaking, like not really new to the UFC at this point, though. He's got, over the 5 UFC fight mark. I guess you're more of a veteran. Melquizael Costa's been looking better. I mean, his Brazilian Muay Thai striking is pretty good. Picks his shots well from the outside. Good kicks. I will say that I did not love the performance against Shailan Nordenbeke. He pulled off a nice comeback win. And then he got a quick sub of Andre Fili. But I feel like, that fight being only a month ago, this could end up being a positive, that Costa is just kind of got a fire lit under his ass right now and is dialed in because he took no damage there. And then just turn around and fight in Mexico City against Rodríguez quick. The weird thing that we could always sit on with certain matchups like this is the Mexico City elevation going to throw off one of these two? That's something you could consider. But I feel like both guys in good shape. Both fought recently. Rodríguez won a unanimous decision against Austin Bashi, fraud checking him. Rodríguez is amazing at giving people their first loss. But then when he takes on crafty guys, like he took on Arosa, he ended up taking an L, right? Julian Arosa, shitload of fights. Tricky striking style, very like awkward boxing style, looping shots, and then he ends up getting subbed. Melquizael Costa, not as tall as Arosa, but does have that similar like long and wiry frame. I feel as though Costa will find some success. I know for a fact that the better pure striker is Rodríguez, but I've said this a lot. I gotta wipe my nose here, man. I don't want to have no boogies on screen. I've said this a lot. I think that Christian Rodríguez at 135 is fucking sensational. But at 145 at 5'7", he's definitely like on the shorter side of things. Now, granted, guys have done it. We've seen Ilya Topuria, Volkanovski, etc. But I don't know. I feel like at 35, he would have been better. Melquizael Costa, he fought at lightweight before. Yes, he lost to Thiago Moises, but he's a tough customer. Seems to be coming into his own. His kicking skills are pretty good. He's got snapping body kicks for sure. Good jiu-jitsu, tricky elbows on the inside. Like I would rate him as a decent Muay Thai striker. Whereas on the opposite side, you got Christian Rodríguez, who I'd consider more of an athletic kickboxer, who does have a well-versed game, but going to be giving up a bit of size in this fight here, 3 inches shorter. And to be fair, Christian Rodríguez is 5'7", but he could be 5'6". Going to have half an inch of reach, which, essentially even reach between the two. I don't expect much of a difference with the range in this fight here. I think C-Rod can have good moments in the fight, but I also see Melquizael Costa having some success. I guess I don't think he's a dead man in striking. C-Rod hasn't really shown to have big punching power. He's pretty accurate, but he's not a knockout artist. And Melquizael Costa, like where he struggled bad was with Steve Garcia fucking him up. But Steve Garcia is a giant featherweight who's an absolute power hitter. Costa's got the tricky jiu-jitsu game. I could see him attempting to grapple here and finding some success. This is not, Raul Rosas at 18 years old who's a 35er. This is a full-size Brazilian featherweight who has good jiu-jitsu, who has good Muay Thai, who seems to be getting better, is in his 20s, and has got a fuckload of pro fights. I'm thinking Malquizio Costa is live for the submission, man. I think C-Rock can get caught in another gilly like he did here against Erosa. I feel like the jiu-jitsu stylist could give Rodríguez trouble with, a surprise submission threat. I guess not that much of a surprise because I'm assuming a lot of you guys are thinking the same type of thing. Definitely let me know in the comments if you're not. But I feel like Malquizio Costa to win makes a ton of sense. Live for a submission. C-Rod, good striking flow. Malquizio Costa will fire big shots back and have successful striking moments. They tie up. I think Costa's jiu-jitsu is better. And I think Costa is live to submit Christian Rodríguez, who I consider more of a kickboxer. And to be fair, I thought that this Bulgarian fight could have went against him as well. So could be 1-2 out of his last 3 if you look at that Bulgarian fight differently. And then you're looking at Melky Costa, who's, I think starting to come into his own. 3 out of his last 4 he's won. He's on a 2-fight win streak. Easy sub against Andre Fili and was outstriking Fili too. Forced Fili into trying to wrestle him. And like I could see Costa landing big kicks on Rodríguez. Maybe Rodríguez wants to wrestle. Then he gets caught in something weird. These wiry frame guys like Melky Costa got good gillies, man. And I could see that gilly working here. I think Malquizio Costa. I think Malquizio Costa is live for a submission, and I'm going to pick him to win by a submission. Though Rodríguez is a pretty talented guy and a quality striker, I'll say Costa's, athletic game, his kicking game, his unorthodox flow on the feet could give him, the opportunity to strike. And I think strike meaning shoot for the sub. I think they go to the mat, Melky wins. But I don't think he's a dead man in striking. I haven't been impressed with Rodríguez's power. I think he's good technically for sure. But power-wise, I don't know. And I don't think Malquizio Costa gets absolutely destroyed on the feet here. And I think Costa is live to take Rodríguez's back at some point. And I think he's live to submit him. So I'm going to go Melky Costa. Under 2.5 is live at plus 195, but Melky Costa as a dog seems pretty good. Plus 121, the tag for Melky Costa. What do you open up at? At open, plus 115, so it's a little better than that. Rodríguez, minus 141 now is the favorite. I see it as, a fight that lines could be a lot more even here. I don't know. Like C-Rod as a favorite, I guess. Minus 140 isn't wide. It's pretty close. It's just, I think Malquizio Costa's frame is a factor in the fight. I think his kicking skills are pretty good. I feel like his striking is solid. And his experience is a big factor. He's got a shitload of fights, man. And his jiu-jitsu's good. When he's on one, his jiu-jitsu is fucking good. And C-Rod is still a former bantamweight, and I think more built for the bantamweight division, where Melky Costa has fought up in weight at 155. Regardless of the success rate, he's been there. I'm saying Melky Costa has a good performance, and I think he beats Christian Rodríguez. I like him as an underdog here. I feel like he's being slept on, and, I guess not necessarily shocked at the odds, but seeing how good he looked with Fili, I thought that it would be even at worst, or he would maybe even potentially be the favorite. So give me Malquizio Costa to win. I think he's a very live underdog on this card, and I think submission is a very live method of victory, and I look forward to seeing these two scrap, man. It's a good stylistic matchup and a really fun fight, and I like Melky's chances. Next fight on the card, we got Ateba Gautier versus Jose Medina. I am picking Ateba Gautier. Yes. Going with another giant favorite from Africa that is unproven at a high level. But Ateba Gautier is a fucking freak specimen at 6'4" with an 81-inch reach. And on the opposite side, we got Jose Medina, who is 6 feet tall, 74.5-inch reach, 33 years old, tough motherfucker, tough customer. I mean, survived against Zach Reese, even hit a takedown early in the fight, or I guess in the first round, even had moments in the fight, throwing his looping shots and trying to strike hard back. Like, Jose Medina is not awful. It's just, he's going to get matched up against guys that have huge advantages over him. And as much as I think Gautier is so unproven, I know he works with Frank Mir. Frank Mir, I would say, pretty good coach for a big, strong middleweight like this in Gautier. Jiu-jitsu game of Gautier, I have to assume, is improving at a high rate. It's just 22. Already has freakish knockout power. Did get taken down a bit by a tough customer with good wrestling from Japan, Naito, in their fight. But then he beat the fuck out of him at the end. Dropped them bad, big ground and pound. Gautier has very heavy hands. He's a natural freak athlete who's got very good hips. It's just like at times gets taken down, kind of gets overzealous with his striking. It's a developing skill set on Gautier, but it's a God-given gift of freak power, God-given gift of freak athleticism, and I think insane potential. Jose Medina is just a tough journeyman. He's one of those guys that you root for. You want to root for a guy like that because he seems like the average guy that's just got some grit, not in great shape, not shredded to the gills, but looks all right. Now moved down to 85. But to be honest with you, bro, if you got Medina on a proper diet and a proper weight cut, you're telling me he couldn't make 170? I find that hard to believe. I feel like he could get to 170. Sure, he'd be a skinnier guy and tall, more wiry frame at 170. But if he was shredded, I feel like Medina's making 70. I don't think Gautier's getting close to 70. At 6'4", with the frame that he has, at 186, I don't know how the fuck he's doing. He's doing those Pereira weight cuts. I can see Gautier missing weight, to be honest. I can see Gautier eventually moving up to light heavyweight. Still, young fighter with a lot of promise versus, gritty OG who's got a hell of a chin, does not give up on himself, but lacks skill. Lacks skill. He lacks skill. Gautier, as much as you can say he's a raw talent, like he looks pretty skillful. It's just he's a young dude from Cameroon, and it's got the Francis Ngannou lore written all over it. I can see the UFC being excited about a heavy hitter like this, and I think Gautier can land some big bombs against Medina. Now, Medina does have a legendary chin, but Gautier has some godly power. 5 wins by KO, but he does have a decision win, right? It was his MMA debut, and let's make sure it was 5-minute rounds. Yeah, it was. MMA debut, he went distance and won. Second MMA fight ever, he ended up losing a decision. But since then, has been on a knockout tear. The level of opposition, yes, not super high, but Jose Medina not super skillful. And yeah, I get it. You want to go Medina because the odds, but he's at a huge size disadvantage. He's at a reach disadvantage. He's at a power disadvantage. And I think Gautier seems to be coming together. So I feel as though Gautier pulls off the win. Medina just doesn't have enough effective offense. Like I could see him giving Gautier more of a challenging fight than anticipated. And maybe he survives until the final bell and Gautier's just on top of him, beating him up from top, controlling with some wrestling, landing some key takedowns, some decent shots on the feet. But I got to go Gautier, man. He's not going to pull off a Carlos Vera head kick, okay? No, I don't see it. I don't see it. But yeah, I agree the odds suck. And odds like that, they make you want to bite on the underdog. But I think that's the deception. Minus 420 for Gautier at open. He was a minus 550 favorite, so there has been love on the underdog. Medina currently plus 320 as the dog. I got to favor Gautier to win. Let's see if they have an over 1.5. Is it over 1.5 minus 150? Interesting. Gautier just has crazy power. I could see him hurting Medina, man. Like, if you look at the guys, Medina, oh, well, he's durable. He went distance. Okay. Magomed Gadzhiesulov got released from the UFC, and he doesn't have power. Zach Reese has a bit of sting, but he also is overrated AF and got fucking exposed by Bakoyev. So I feel as though Gautier by KO is actually not a crazy outcome here. It's just because he's very young, unproven, and because, probably a lot of people thinking about that Carlos Vera fight versus Musasa a couple weeks ago, there's going to be some fading here at Gautier, which I get it. If, the betting side of things, odds suck. You kind of just want to chill on the sidelines, sit back and watch. I don't blame you one bit. But to break the fight down, the pick has to be Gautier, who's also live for a knockout, could win a hard-fought decision. But simply put, I just think he is superior to Jose Medina. More powerful striking, I think more potential by a fucking long shot, and seems to be coming together pretty well. And I'll say that his physicality is a massive difference maker. And I could see the Cameroonian pulling off a knockout against the gritty journeyman in Jose Medina. So going Gautier for the W. Next fight on the card, it's our featured prelim. Edgar Cháirez versus CJ Vergara. Edgar Cháirez, man. I have to. Edgar Cháirez. I tried to pick CJ, guys. I'm like trying to see, is there a path for CJ? But it's hard to say. There is, man. He's really not super powerful. He's skillful. He's quick hands. Quick hands. Decent boxer, bro. I'll be honest. I go through his Instagram watching some footage of him training. I'm like, damn, bro. He should just be boxing pro at this point because he's just doing a shitload of boxing. Does have good stance switches, does have good combination punches, does have hand speed, but doesn't have much power. He's light on his feet for sure, but I do think that the calf kicks of Cháirez could be a very effective attack with Vergara, being a guy that focuses a lot on his boxing. And then on the opposite side of things, as far as when it hits the mat, Cháirez has a very legit jiu-jitsu game, very live chance even potentially to pull off a submission here against Vergara. I rate Cháirez's jiu-jitsu as a good amount better than Vergara's. Vergara, like, relatively sound defensively, and like you say, oh, well, he went distance without Almabayev. Yeah, but Almabayev's not like a submission threat guy. To be fair, like, Almabayev is an embrace the grind, take you down, control you, beat you up a little bit, do it again next round. Cháirez has tricky jiu-jitsu. The Lacerda fight, essentially fucking subbed them back-to-back in 2 different fights. And then last time out, like, he actually looked good against Van early, and he dropped Joshua Van. Granted, Van is a fucking slow starter, but still, Cháirez cracked them big in round 1, and I can see straight shots being a big advantage for Cháirez in this matchup. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. Cháirez has kind of a weird frame for flyweight, right? He's on the relatively taller side, has very long arms, and has a thick and wide back, which I think gives him a bit of that oomph in his shots and also the grappling strength. And don't forget, in his debut, he had a late submission attempt on Tyra, which was mad close right at the final bell, though he got completely outworked. Survived against a grappling maestro, CJ Vergara, not so lucky. He got submitted by Tyra. Better jiu-jitsu on the side of Cháirez. Boxing of Vergara, though I think it's efficient and quick, Cháirez has more power. Cháirez is the better MMA striker with a more dangerous tool set. Cháirez, dangerous elbows, dangerous kicks, dangerous knees. Vergara, okay hands, okay kicks, but like not crazy good. Decent speed though in the combos. I give some credit where it's due. There's boxing there. There is skill in boxing. But Cháirez has more power. Cháirez is just fucking meaner as an individual, I feel like. And I feel like the grappling skill, too, could be an intangible that comes in handy. I'm curious to see the clinch because I feel like Cháirez can land some nasty elbows and knees in the clinch. I feel like his Muay Thai could look nice in this fight. And I feel like Edgar Cháirez to pull through in a hard-fought battle with CJ Vergara makes sense. He's the younger guy, right? I feel like he's also, I think, coming into his own. Like, yeah, you can look at the negative side. He lost to Van, but still went 3 hard rounds and pulled success out of that fight. And I feel like he's only getting better. So I'm thinking Edgar Cháirez can get his hand raised in this one. I feel like he can absolutely lock the fuck in and pull off a good performance against Vergara. And I feel like he's live for the submission too. Tricky jiu-jitsu game. I could see Cháirez subbing up Vergara. So I'm going to say Cháirez for the W with the threat of submission being a possibility. Now, he's a bit of a fat favorite at minus 280. Vergara plus 240. But I like Cháirez, man. I think the leg kicks will be a factor here. I think it'll hurt Vergara with some shots. We see Vergara hurt a lot too. Like even against Daniel Lacerda, right? Vergara he dropped a few times in that fight. So getting stung up by big shots, Cháirez can sting him up with big shots, but also then Cháirez could bring the threat of submission because on the mat, Cháirez is, I think, quite efficient with submission threats, and I feel like he's going to be a hard matchup for Vergara, man. With that slight size advantage, but that 4-inch reach advantage with the better jiu-jitsu, I think the submission threat is live with those long, wiry arms. And then I think in the striking, Cháirez better kickboxer. This is not boxing. This is MMA. So I'm looking at a guy with a more well-refined tool set of the 8 limbs, definitely Cháirez. And I don't think Vergara is a power hitter. If Vergara, showcased some big knockout power in some fights, and I felt like he had some thud in his shots, maybe I'd be thinking different. But Vergara isn't really a big hitter, man. He's got speed, but lacks the pop. And I think Cháirez hitting harder. It's a factor. Like Vergara, was he going to box up Cháirez for 3 rounds and not get cracked with a nasty shot and a nasty elbow and then potentially get taken down? I have a hard time seeing it. I don't see Vergara outworking Cháirez over 3 rounds. And then on the opposite front, I think Cháirez can win by submission, knockout, or decision. If you really get down to the nitty gritty of it all, I think he's better at jiu-jitsu, and I think he's more efficient in striking. So I'm going to say Cháirez does some more damage. At the end of the day, Vergara's going to have a hard time keeping Cháirez off of him because of his lack of power. So Edgar Cháirez for the win. Something tells me submission, maybe even club and sub. I think Cháirez pulls off a nice one for the Mexican people fighting at home, and I think he looks impressive here in the featured prelim of the night. Let's go. Let's jump to our main card opener. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. We got Ronaldo Rodríguez versus Kevin Borjas. I love this fight. I'm going with Ronaldo Rodriguez. I think that it's going to be a good matchup. And the reason I love this fight is because Borjas is actually pretty good at striking. Borjas has a clean kickboxing style, good leg kicks, good lateral movement, picks his shots pretty nicely. The issue is, let's be real here, got absolutely fucked up by Alessandro Costa and showed a serious weakness of his defensive ability with calf kicks. Rodriguez does have some snap on his kicks, and I can see him attacking the calf of Borjas, but not to the same degree as Costa, because I don't think Rodriguez has the same type of power as an Alessandro Costa. What Rodriguez has is a well-versed pressure attack. His striking is a little reckless and wild, but he definitely has speed and power. Where he has, I think, a pretty clear-cut advantage is going to be the grappling aspect. I believe he's the better wrestler, and I believe he has better jiu-jitsu than Kevin Borjas here. Also, a bit grittier. When things get dirty, Ronaldo Rodriguez does not shy away. He does not break. We saw it. He got fucking dropped bad, locked in a full triangle in round number 1 against Ode Osborne, was able to survive, come back, and win the fight. The guy is the absolute definition of Mexican toughness, and fighting at home in Mexico here, I think Ronaldo Rodriguez can outdog Kevin Borjas. I think in boxing range, he's better. Borjas, from long distance, does pose a threat from the outside with his straight shots and his kicks. But I think as we get into the inside, Ronaldo Rodriguez, more powerful with his hands, going to be able to land some nice hooks. And from the mid and even potentially long range, I do think a calf kick from Rodriguez could be a factor. Now, he's given up some reach, so I expect Rodriguez to bring his typical pressure-based striking style to the table here. I expect him to close the gap on Borjas and land multi-shot combinations on the inside. But I don't think he's just going to strike. I don't think he's just trying to get into a back and forth striking brawl. I think he knows he's better at wrestling, and I think he knows he's got trickier jiu-jitsu. And I think Rodriguez, at some point, he is very physically strong. He uses the grappling skill and the physical strength to get this fight to the ground. And I think Ronaldo Rodriguez takes the back, beats up Borjas a bit, maybe mounts him, live for an arm triangle, live for a rear naked choke. Of course, there's other methods you can win by, but something tells me Rodriguez is live for a sub in this fight here. If Borjas has early success, I don't think you should be too worried because Rodriguez has a good comeback ability. And even if Rodriguez dropping the first round, I think the relentlessness of Rodriguez leads him to the win. I expect him to outdog Kevin Borjas in this fight here. And I do think he's live for that submission, man. Something tells me when they hit the mat, Rodriguez is just simply going to be better at jiu-jitsu / grappling overall, and it's going to be enough for him to get the finish. So I'm going with Ronaldo Rodriguez to outdog Kevin Borjas in a pretty good back and forth fight. Now, as far as the odds for the fight, let's see if I can find them. I'm seeing every other Rodriguez. Am I blind to the odds? There we go. They got it on the Lewis, man. Come on, fight odds. He's going by Ronaldo. Give him Ronaldo. Minus 146 for Ronaldo Rodriguez. Kevin Borjas plus 126. Yeah, I'm going with Ronaldo. You know, I picked Kevin Borjas over Diaz on the Contender Series a while back, so I like his style and I see skills for sure, but just gritty motherfuckers like Ronaldo Rodriguez who can box a bit in close, I think they overwhelm a Borjas, especially with the threat of grappling. Minus 200 for an over 2.5. I do think the sub is live, so under could be live, but not tell you to chase it, just to mention. Minus 146, the money line for Ronaldo Rodriguez. I am extremely curious what the line is going to look like for Ronaldo Rodriguez to win this fight by submission. I'm curious as hell. I know you guys are too. I don't think Borjas can knock him out. Unlikely that he knocks him out. And then for Borjas to just out kickbox him for 3 rounds, I think Ronaldo Rodriguez has good pressure style with the grappling threat that makes that extremely difficult for Borjas to do such a thing. So I'll say Ronaldo Rodriguez outdogs Kevin Borjas and pulls off the submission over a pretty skillful striker. I give Borjas respect where it's due. At the end of the day, though, man, the leg kicks last time kind of exploited a weakness. Did lose to Joshua Van, but to be fair, you know, even though Joshua Van, you know, pulled off a win against him, I think Joshua Van's so much better than that fight a year and 4 months ago. I don't know how much Borjas has improved, man. And then he's fighting a guy with way more experience as a pro and a lot of amateur experience too, even though it's not on Tapology, but they say he's got over 20 amateur fights. And Ronaldo Rodriguez, who's younger, with a more well-versed grappling game, with tight boxing on the inside, with a ton of fucking toughness and grit, fighting at home in Mexico. Nah, you're not going to Mexico and taking out the Savage. Not Ronaldo Rodriguez, man. 2-0 in the UFC, also versus 0-2 in the UFC. I think momentum trending upward for Rodriguez. The confidence got to be crazy high right now. And then I think on the side of Kevin Borjas, fighting for his job, essentially. But I think Ronaldo Rodriguez gets Borjas fired. I'm sorry, Borjas. I like you, bro. I like Borjas, man. I feel bad for him, but Ronaldo Rodriguez is going to win, man. I can't just say, oh, well, I'm going to pick him because I feel bad. No, that's not what we're doing. We're going with Ronaldo Rodriguez. Let's keep running. Next fight, David Martinez versus Simon Oliveira. I'm going with David Martinez. Simon Oliveira, he's not even active at all. Besides that, a little bit of a reckless Muay Thai striker. Has a very traditionalist Muay Thai bounce with the way that he holds his set, but then he starts throwing wild spinning back fists and shit and gets out of position as he lets the combos fly. He's not super technically efficient. Personally, I don't feel that he is. And then on the side of David Martinez, you got a pretty skillful kickboxing style, nasty kicker, good punching skills, even showcased that damn Superman punch on the Contender Series. He has a good striking flow and he picks his shots well and he has pretty good accuracy. Now, Simon Oliveira is a tough customer, and I expect him to bring forward pressure and look to attack. In that, I think Oliveira leaves opportunities to counter. I just don't think Simon Oliveira is UFC level, really. Physically, he's strong. If you go back and watch the Contender Series fight, is able to use more grit than anything to, take his opponent down with the trip, but he doesn't have, efficient technical wrestling. It's not like he's shooting these perfect takedowns. It's more he's just bullying people to the floor. I think he has a hard time doing that against David Martinez. Martinez has pretty good lateral movement and really snappy kicks. So when you have a guy with, pretty strong lower half like that and good explosiveness in the hips with kicks, a lot of times it transfers over to a good base as well. And Oliveira just dragging him to the ground without real clean technique on the wrestling seems like a low likelihood. And then as far as the striking, Oliveira will sit in the pocket and get wild, leaving opportunities for counter shots. He's not a great athlete. He's just a tough Brazilian customer that comes forward and swings hard and tries to use that Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, but ultimately lacks in the technical side. And I think David Martinez is live to get a highlight reel here. Daniel Marcos 2 years ago. I remember when he fucked up Simon Oliveira, the body knee, and then just finished him up, right? And that was when, Marcos really burst onto the scene with that win. Fight before that, he got fucked up against Tony Gravely 3 years ago. Dude has not won a fight for 3.5 years. It's been a long while since he's been fighting, period, right? 2 years and 2 months off. He's been out of the game for a minute. I mean, you dig back, 2 years ago, I guess, not a ton of fights for David Martinez, but in the time, 3 fights since then. Not like he's been extremely active. I guess you can shit on him a little bit there, but finishing ability for sure. Dude that he fought on Contender Series, inexperienced Xavier Franklin, but what he had that kept him in the fight, extremely good athlete and pretty efficient striking. I feel like Oliveira, though he's got a lot of fights on paper, man, he's just kind of a wild journeyman. He lacks technique. And David Martinez has a clean and true kickboxing, karate-esque base to his style that gives him very clean and efficient technique. And I think Oliveira lacks that. The way he holds this set, like I said, very traditionalist Muay Thai, but he just looks like a bad Muay Thai fighter to me when I watch him throw his shots. I don't think he's clean. David Martinez is clean at striking. David Martinez has knockout ability. Younger guy, for sure. Trending momentum upward, 1,000%. And confidence got to be all-time high. Simon Oliveira is 0-2 in the UFC and, maybe shouldn't even be there. I'm saying David Martinez. I'm thinking David Martinez could knock him out, as probably everybody's thinking that, because Martinez got a lot of hype from that dominant win. -400 for Martinez. Oliveira +300. I think Martinez able to keep this fight standing for the most part. I don't think Oliveira's takedown game is great to drag Martinez down. And I think Martinez is pretty efficient with movement to stay away from the grappling. And then when I look towards the striking, like I said, Oliveira, it looks like it's clean Muay Thai, but when the offense gets going, there's a lot of fat on the punches. It's not a technically sound style. He's a bit of a wild man and brawler, which is fun to watch, but fun to watch him also get punched in the face. And I think David Martinez is going to hit him with some big shots, maybe even watch for the high kick. I feel like he wants to put one up there on Oliveira. And I think Martinez for the W. -400 is a wide-ass tag, but it is what it is. At open, he was -270. That would have been a lot better. Simon Oliveira +300 as the underdog. Again, Martinez to the dub. I think so. under 2.5 live at plus 105. I think there's a good possibility of a finish, probably a Martinez violent finish. Yeah, I mean, there's submissions on the resume for Simone. How many subs he does have? You see, he's got 11 wins by sub, right? So he's got a little tricky jits, but it's been a minute, man. 2019 was that last win by submission. I mean, the guy just doesn't fight in this era. He doesn't. Hasn't fought in over 2 years. Giving up height and a little bit of reach. I think that he's at a speed disadvantage and a technical striking disadvantage. As long as Martinez doesn't get his back taken, really, I think that he's probably good to go. And I'll say Martinez handles business against Simone Oliveira and gets a win at home in Mexico, too. So shout out to David Martinez. I'm looking forward to this fight. Looking forward to seeing him live up to the hype as well. Next fight on the card, Raul Rosas Jr. versus Vinc Morales. I'm going with El Niño Problema. Chihuihuis. Of course, I'm going with Raul Rosas. And I like Vinc Morales, bro. Okay? I picked Vinc Morales a fair amount. I mean, I picked him against Elijah Smith. That was a shit pick looking back at it. But the fact that Elijah Smith, was able to do fairly well in the fight. To be honest, though, Vinc Morales had a good third round and had some submission attempts. Like, he didn't make it easy for the young Elijah Smith. Elijah was able to outwork him in the striking department and stay safe in grappling. But here's the difference, right? Raul Rosas, though he's a young dude at 20, he embraces the grappling. I think Rosas' plan is to fucking walk Morales down, drag him to the ground, and beat him up. And I think Rosas is better on the ground than Morales. I think, honestly, it's crazy to say at 20 years old, but I think he's physically stronger. Rosas has got some strength to him, deceptive strength. Skillful jiu-jitsu game. Has shown comeback ability, insane chin, bro. You're not getting anything under him. I think Rosas could spin out of bad positions if Morales somehow does have a submission attempt. And I think Rosas has a lot of grit, and I expect him to stay in the face of Morales, potentially dragging Morales to the ground. I could see Raul Rosas taking the back of Morales, but I have a hard time saying that he's going to finish Morales up, though. Morales is a gritty customer. I think Morales can have some moments in the striking, throwing some big shots, landing some leg kicks. I think Rosas' striking is still a developing asset of his game, but I do have to say, I think Rosas' striking won't look awful in this matchup here. I feel like that Morales getting backed up and, controlled against the cage for a good portion of the fight, and then Rosas dragging him down. It's not like Morales going to have crazy opportunities to strike, but if he does, the issue with Morales, which I'm really getting at here, not a real power hitter. And usually his best aspect to win a lot of these fights is the submission threat. But does he pull off the sub over Raul Rosas? I guess I'm having a hard time saying yes. I can't say yes. I like Morales normally. And he's a tricky guy with his Peruvian neckties and Doris chokes. He's got good front headlock positions. And Rosas gonna look to wrestle for sure. But I'm telling you, bro, that freakish chin, Rosas got that crimson chin, is going to be hard to get under it. I don't know how the fuck Morales is going to do it. If he does, he might get his arm broken by the chin of Rosas, for God's sake. Obviously, I'm joking a bit there. But I do think the size of Rosas' chin, I'm not even fucking joking with you, makes him harder to choke out. It's like an extra wedge he can use to stop the submissions. And Morales getting a gilly against Rosas with that crimson chin? I don't think so. So I see Rosas getting him down. I see Rosas having some grappling success, high-paced pressure attack, winning some key moments, and I feel like he grinds out a decision. He grinds out a decision win over the tough OG and Vinc Morales. I think this is a good test for Raul Rosas, and I feel like he can pass it. 10-1 as a pro, and if you look at that loss to C-Rod, he did have a good first round. It was 2 years ago, good first round with C-Rod. He's followed it up with 3 straight. I mean, Terrence Mitchell's not even UFC level. Submitting Tercios, to be honest, I get it. Tercios is a slow twitch guy, to say the least. But gritty jiu-jitsu, strong base of jits, and then submitting him was impressive. And then last time, looking fairly dominant against Arichi Long, who's, a tough journeyman with, over 30 pro fights. I think there's positives to take away. And now you give him Vinc Morales, another tough journeyman with, a good amount of fights. It's going to be his 26th pro fight. I just think Rosas should pass this test. Something tells me Rosas is going to have a good enough performance. It's not going to make you say, wow, give this kid the top 15, because that's not the level that he's at just yet. But I think it'll be an efficient win. He'll time the takedowns. He'll have some moments of success controlling against the cage. He'll get kicked in the legs a bit and he'll get punched in the face a few times. And Morales will be gritty and hard to control. But Rosas will probably win a 29-28 decision. Probably loses some key exchanges. Maybe loses early portions of the second round. I don't know. Could lose a round, could not. I'll say Rosas in a competitive manner pulls off a W against Vince Morales. And I'll say he shows a little bit of new wrinkles to his game. His boxing looks a little faster than before. As far as the odds for the fight, Raul Rosas is minus 350. He shouldn't be this big of a favorite. This is too wide of a line to justify for Rosas taking on a guy who's gritty. But I do think he wins. Minus 400 at open. Wow. Plus 285 Morales, man. Damn, son. Morales, I'll tell you this, bro. If you want to be a fucking savage D-Gen, you go Morales by sub. I don't know what it's going to be at as a D-Gen call because there is a slight possibility. Like 2 out of 10 times, I think that Morales does lock up something with the front headlock position because Rosas is going to look to wrestle. Now, he'll like the clinch work, the trips and the drags from there, but I could see him shooting low, getting caught in something. And Morales does have a tight squeeze, but ultimately, I'm thinking Rosas outworks him. And I'll say Rosas on the cards. Minus 200, over 2.5. Rosas, unanimous decision. He's almost 21 now, guys. And he does have a little size advantage over Vince, a little bit taller. And I think that his grappling's pretty efficient and effective. And he's got a fucking lot of UFC experience now. And like, to be fair, glimpses of greatness early. I mean, he made easy work at Jay Perrin. Listen, Jay Perrin still went 3 rounds against Mario Batista, who's in the fucking top 10. Like, you know, it's not MMA math, but just mentioning, like, Rosas has that performance to make you open your eyes and say, that kid's got something special. So I'm going to say Rosas, hard-fought win, takes out a gritty journeyman and Vince Morales by unanimous decision. Next fight on the card, it's our featured fight of the night. It's Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. Joe Pyfer. Yeah, it's Joe Pyfer, guys. Come on. Come on. It's 28-year-old Joe Pyfer versus 33-year-old Gastelum. I have always spoke highly of Gastelum's grit, but man, at this point, it's hard to fucking pick this dude. Last time, I mean, competitive win against D-Rod, to say the least, the motherfucker moved the fight up to 185. D-Rod was preparing for a welterweight fight. They had to move it up because Kelvin Gastelum cannot get the diet in check. Every time, so I'm getting a nutritionist now. I'm locking in now. And it doesn't happen, bro. He's doing food reviews on fucking YouTube. Now, maybe KG's in the best shape of his life ever, and we're going to see a shredded Kelvin Gastelum. But he's been through the ringer, man. He's fought so many pro fights. He's taken a fuckload of damage. And Joe Pyfer right now is kind of coming up. Training in Philly, Pennsylvania guy, working with Sean Brady. Like, he's boys with Sean. They got a damn podcast together. And, you know, Sean Brady handled Kelvin Gastelum on the ground. Now, Pyfer's got a different style. Pyfer's, you know, more of a boxing-heavy game. Pyfer can crack. I mean, respect on the power. Knock out a Marc-Andre Barrios. Fucked up Abdul Razak Al-Hassan and was able to sub him up. KO Amir Shart, made it look easy. Amadowski shit. Lost the decision to Hermanson, but Hermanson's good at checking people, though. Hermanson's good at the check. Pyfer wasn't ready for that jump just yet. But this matchup here against an aging Kelvin Gastelum, I think Pyfer's boxing is a lot better. He's more powerful and explosive. I know Kelvin Gastelum's got the wrestling base, but like at this point, I'm not overly enthused by Kelvin Gastelum's wrestling game. I am going to check Instagram right now because I have to see, is Kelvin Gastelum shredded? Do we got 6-pack Gastelum coming in looking to make that final go? I don't know. I actually have to look, man. I have to see. I feel like I saw something that he was looking in like slightly better shape. I don't know. It just looks like Kelvin Gastelum in his pics, man. I don't see Shredsky Gastelum right now. If he came in with a full 6-pack, though, that'd be crazy. But he'd be at 170 then. You're not going to see Kelvin Gastelum shredded at 85. This is not reality, right? Gastelum's boxing is tough, though. I mean, good southpaw, fast hands, good little straight left over the top. He's had moments where you say, holy shit, this guy's a fucking monsoon. But then you've also had moments where you're like, yeah, this guy's washed. And I'm kind of feeling like he's more towards the wash. Pyfer's going to have the power advantage. I think he could hurt Kelvin Gastelum. It's like hard for me to say, though, Kelvin Gastelum getting knocked out because that chin is held up, man. Never KO'd. Submission losses. Joe Pyfer, is he ready to win a decision? Only one decision win. 3 subs, though. Pyfer's the physically more imposing guy. I think he could hurt Gastelum. I'm just sitting here a little worried thinking about one aspect, and it's like, what happens? This is a crazy universe, and this is not my prediction, but this is the analysis from both sides that I see in my mind. What happens, right? Pyfer throwing bombs in round one. Gastelum chin holds up. Pyfer punches himself out. Fatiguing in round two. Gastelum cracks him with some big shots in round three. Pulls off some crazy fucking win. Maybe, lands a late takedown, gets a split decision. It's just the worry, right? Especially if you're on the gambling side. You're like, well, I'm going Pyfer at minus 550. It's like the odds suck, man. The odds suck. It's like these are not really the money line calls. There's no point on the betting side. Just the fun pick side, though, breaking it down. Pyfer hits harder. Pyfer's better at boxing at this point. Gastelum is aging. Gastelum's looking slower. Gastelum's looking older. He didn't look good against Daniel Rodríguez, and that was a middleweight fight. He didn't look good. He needed wrestling in that fight to pull through. He's losing some striking exchanges. Yeah, D-Rod also a southpaw, I guess you could say. But damn, Joe Pyfer, good athlete, developing guy, big power in his hands. I think he can outstrike Kelvin Gastelum. I think he can outmuscle Kelvin Gastelum, use his size advantage. Because see, Pyfer on top of Gastelum, similar frame, like size disadvantage-wise for Gastelum versus like how we fought Chris Weidman years ago. So I think he struggles with that, a guy who can impose his will. Not that Pyfer's a wrestler, but he does have decent jiu-jitsu. It's not like Pyfer doesn't have ground skills. He's solid enough on the mat. And he's a big puncher, good boxer, and a guy who I think is getting better each and every time at 28. And this seems kind of like the shift of time, right? It just, does Gastelum take his best shot? And then how does Pyfer deal with a guy who can eat? If you're on Pyfer's team, like, you got to be prepared for a Gastelum that can eat big punches because he's always had a good chin. And, hopefully the mindset for Pyfer's team is not, we're going to get this guy out of there in 7 minutes, because that could be a recipe for disaster. Right? Trying to get him out very fast with Kelvin Gastelum and gassing yourself out, and then Gastelum steals it late. But odds are Pyfer's calculated. He lands some big shots, wins some key exchanges. Gastelum might have a couple of moments. Probably Gastelum not taking Pyfer down. So we're in a striking fight with Pyfer seeming to have the speed and power advantage for sure at this point. Reach advantage favoring Pyfer. Potentially drops Gastelum. It's really Gastelum's chin holding him in the fight. If Gastelum wasn't known for the iron chin, if we'd seen him put out before, I'd be going, yo, Pyfer's going to catch this guy. But it's Kelvin. He's a freak. But yeah, I'm thinking Pyfer wins. Does he get the KO over Gastelum? First guy to put Gastelum away? I know Adesanya dropped him bad in the 5th round, but that was after a war. But then there's also he got fucked up years ago, taking big damage in fights, years and years and years on end. It's got to have an effect on your chin. Eventually, it's got to crack. And Pyfer, one of the hardest hitters at 85. But I'm thinking Pyfer by a decision will not blow my mind. It won't. It's like, it whispers in my ear, it should be a KO. But it's like, Pyfer by decision is not crazy. Just because he's not known for winning decisions doesn't mean he couldn't go 3 hard rounds and win a decision. Minus 340 for Pyfer, plus 280 for Gastelum. I just don't think Gastelum's a top contender anymore. Over 2.5, minus 120. I wish it was over 1.5, minus 120. I'd say, yeah, we can go over 1.5. Fat favorite in Pyfer. Let's say he lands some big significant shots and wins a decision. Let's see, how many rounds did he go? Was this a 3 or a 5? Yeah, it was 5. He lost, but he went 5 rounds against Hermanson, and he looked good in the early rounds. It's just 3, 4, 5 started to fade a bit. But it's also a good learning experience. I'm saying Joe Pyfer wins. At worst, he snags the first 2 rounds, fatigues a bit in the 3rd, and gets caught a little bit by Gastelum, but survives to the bell and loses a decision. But yeah, I'll say Pyfer to win. I'm thinking decision, though, man. I have to lean towards decision. As much as I love the power that he has, Gastelum's chin is legendary, and I guess until it happens that Gastelum actually gets dusted, it's just really hard for me to pick Gastelum getting KO'd, right? I don't know. You guys might be thinking the same. I feel like a lot of you probably are. But I'm going Joe Pyfer. I'm going Pyfer. Big shots landed, maybe even a knockdown. But Gastelum's grit keeps him in it, and Joe Pyfer takes it on the cards. And the younger man wins with the more trending potential upward. Let's keep running. Next fight, co-main event. Talk about an absolute epic matchup. This is a badass fight. Manuel Torres versus Drew Dober. Oh my gosh, you got to make a pick on this one. Listen. I'm going with Drew Dober to beat Manuel Torres because I have no idea about Manuel Torres ever being able to adapt game plans if things go awry. Now, what am I talking about? The Ignacio Bahamondes taught me something about Manuel. It's when he gets hit, it's not, okay, let's change the game. It's no, let's just continue to pressure and swing wild. Like the shot Bahamondes caught him with was fucking superb. And Bahamondes is really good coming into his own now. But that shot lands, and the fact that instead of Torres now trying to change the game, take a second, breathe, reset, react, find counters, it's no, I'm just going to blitz forward with chaotic, wild shots trying to knock you out. And then it happens again, and then he gets knocked out. Makes me think, okay, the fight IQ is not high. And Manuel Torres is good at winning fights by landing the perfect shot. And he tends to do it very often. But who does he tend to do it against, right? Look at the win in his debut, Frank Camacho. Flatlined him, fucked him up bad. Manuel Torres, Nicholas Mota. Manuel Torres. This is Manuel Torres. Nicholas Mota. Nasty elbow, puts him away. Mota was still cracking over the top, though. Chris Duncan. He actually got caught by Chris Duncan. Now, to be fair, Duncan can box a bit. Duncan kind of got power like Dober, right? And Dober, I think, more proven to hit hard than Duncan. But, like, I'm using it as a loose comparison that there was a big shot that landed for Duncan early, and then on the ground he got destroyed. I don't see Dober getting destroyed on the ground like that. And then Bahamondes 6 months ago, fucking Manuel up. Now, say what you want about Drew Dober. I know the Gene Silva loss, and Gene Silva is a masterful striker. Still, to be fair, it was a loss by doctor stoppage. It's not like Drew Dober got finished by a KO in the fight. Money Moicano lost, but he knocked him down. And then win over Rick Glenn, nice knockout. The Frivola loss was rough. To be fair, Frivola fucking dropped him, finished him bad in that fight. But that was 2 years ago. It's like Drew Dober getting outstruck by Bobby Green, but he's relentless and he comes back and cracks him. Manuel Torres is lacking ability to adapt. I guess a lack of adaptability is such a worry for me. And as bad as that fight against Bahamondes looked last time, it makes me question the fight IQ. Like, yes, he can bust Dober up. Yes, he can land big shots, cut him and hurt him. But if he doesn't put him away and Dober starts cracking big shots back, what is Manuel Torres' answer going to be? Is it going to be just more chaotic blitzes and hoping for the best, which normally it works out. Normally for Manuel Torres, he gets hit with something, he throws chaos back, and he knocks the fighter out. But Dober, I know he's been knocked out a fair amount, but he's not chinny, though. I know he's 36 years old and, you know, could be towards that last leg of his run. And Manuel Torres is the freak athlete who's got big knockout ability and crazy upside and a lot of potential. But to be fair, it's not like he's beaten high-level guys. He hasn't beaten the opposition that Dober has. He hasn't beaten a Bobby Green. I mean, Dober's been on the fucking roster forever. Holy shit. What is this, his 25th UFC fight? And Dober's durability is good. He's taking big shots. I mean, look at Terrence McKinney dropping him multiple times and Dober comes back. Like, yeah, the Frivola fight, he got fucked up and finished. But, like, normally Dober's durability is there. He showed it again against Gene Silva. He didn't wilt and fall down. It was a doctor stoppage. So, Manuel Torres, if he can't get Dober out of there in the first round, where does it go? Right? Look at Manuel Torres' win. First round, first round, first round, first round, first round, first round. He's a first-round fighter. Now, granted, knockout loss in the first round, too. But longer than normal. I mean, the fight times for, Manuel Torres is lightning speed. And when it doesn't end in round one, what happens in the second and third? At this point, I question Manuel Torres in those rounds. I question the adaptability and fight IQ. I question his ability to strike technically. I know he can brawl and he can land a gnarly elbow and hurt Dober. But if he doesn't finish Dober and Dober's throwing big shots back, he definitely has power in his hands. What happens then? I could see Manuel Torres crumbled with big shots and Dober landed big, huge flurries, dropping him, TKOing him. And I'm going Dober. I'm going with Drew. I'm going with Drew Dober to surprise everybody, man. Looking at Dober, where's the odds for the Dober fight? Plus 109, so he's a slight underdog. Torres minus 129. I see it as a 50-50 fight. For sure, it's a 50-50 fight. Over a round and a half, plus 140. You got to assume if it's going over a round and a half, Dober probably would have the edge in the later stage. It's like, can he survive that Manuel Torres blender that he throws at you in round one? Because it's fucking terrifying. Manuel Torres is a menace, bro. The fact that he's got gnarly elbow knockout, the fact that he subbed up Chris Duncan, it's impressive as shit. But that fight against Bahamondes, he looks so human. Seeing him getting caught with that straight shot and then doing the same thing that got him caught, but even worse, even more wild, then getting caught again, I'm like, the adaptability sucks. I feel like Drew Dober can overcome. I mean, at the very least, you can say, all right, well, Bobby Green had success early and was able to overcome and then pull off the win by knockout. And yeah, I get it. It's Bobby Green. But it's not the wash Bobby Green that we're looking at today. It was a different Bobby Green then. Okay? It's not the one that gets knocked out by Jalen and Rufy. It was Bobby before the fall off. At 36, does Dober got one left in him? I feel like he might. I think Manuel Torres is potentially overrated. And I have been part of the group of people overrating him before. You know, I have. I've had my doubts early on, and then I started coming around, and then the doubt is fully back in me. And now he's taking on the gritty All-American OG. I'm going savage mode USA in this hole. I'm saying that in Mexico City, Drew Dober outdogs Manuel Torres. Don't worry about the gas tank of Dober either, because he trains in Denver. He trains at elevation. He's ready for this Mexico City elevation. And I'm saying Dober outdogs Manuel Torres in a good fight. We're going with Dober in the co-main. Let's keep running. Next fight, main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. We got Brandon Moreno versus Steve Erceg. I'm going with Brandon Moreno. I've been a Steve Erceg fan since the come up, but I think Brandon Moreno is too much for him. Moreno, he's one of the best in the world at flyweight. His kickboxing is really nice. Good body kicks. He fucked up Kaikara France a few years ago, and that was a win where it was like, okay, the striking of Moreno is quality as well. Now, Erceg last time, starched by Kaikara France. Now, jumping into this spot, I'm excited to see the matchup. I'm curious to see how it ends up all unfolding here between the two of them. Erceg at one point was supposed to fight against Asu Almabayev. Now, this is a way bigger fight for him. But it's a hard matchup because Moreno is going to have the ability to go 5 hard rounds. To be real with you, against Amir Albazi, I thought he looked really crisp. His hands looked good. Striking was there. Gas tank was on point. It didn't look like a wash Brandon Moreno. Fight before that, close decision with Royval, who's a top contender right now. Fight before that, close decision with Pantoja. Now, to be fair to Erceg, he also had a really close fight with Pantoja. Fight IQ mistake in round 5 cost him a fight that was pretty close throughout. Erceg was looking like the fucking man in that matchup, to be honest with you, man. Like, burst on the scene impressively, right? Burst up at, number 10 in the world, fighting for the belt and giving the champ a real run for his money. But I just can't pick him against Brandon Moreno. Moreno's striking is good. His gas tank is good. His durability is good. Erceg has decent boxing, but I could see him getting taken down by a Brandon Moreno. I think he loses key exchanges against Moreno here. I think Moreno could take the back of Erceg. I see him out-muscling Steve if they hit the mat as well. Definitely I favor Brandon Moreno's jiu-jitsu and grappling skill overall, including the wrestling aspect, over Steve Erceg's. As far as striking, Erceg has some decent hand speed, and I do think he has solid boxing, but Moreno's got good Mexican-style boxing too, and he's got good combinations, pretty fast hands. I think he's better with his kicking skills than Steve Erceg. I favor Moreno to win the clinch battle. Erceg ready to push 5 hard, finish his fight strong, even if, he's lost, 2 out of his last 3. It's against Royval and it's against Pantoja. Both split decisions, man. Moreno's right there for the elite. Like, he could be in, the title picture in a snap of a finger. And this win here will put him on a 2-fight win streak. And I know people say, what the fuck, a quadrilogy against Pantoja. They fought once on The Ultimate Fighter. But yeah, a quadrilogy against Pantoja, even though he's down 0-3. If it is what it is, and fuck it, you make it happen because of Moreno's grit. I'm saying Brandon Moreno outworks Steve Erceg. This is the Brandon Moreno that upset Davison Figueiredo, right? This is the one that sent Davison up to bantamweight. When Moreno's on one, he's a fucking monster. He's good everywhere. His gas tank is insane. His striking skills are high level. He's got, honestly, I'd say an incredible mentality. And I think that leads him to success against a skillful guy in Erceg. Don't sleep on Erceg. Don't overlook him. Don't disregard him. Don't disrespect him. He's not a bum. Just because Kai Kara France knocked him out in the first round, Kai is a fucking monster with his power and caught him with the perfect shot. Erceg's better than that. But Moreno will outwork him too. It's just, how does Moreno win it, man? Does he get the finish? That's what I'm asking myself, to be honest. Because I said to myself, I'll decide live. I mean, good finishing ability. But, last 3 fights, all decisions. The Figueiredo fight, it was a doctor's stoppage. But he did good damage there. Finished Kai Kara France. I could see Moreno hurting Erceg in the 3rd or 4th round and putting him away with big shots. Maybe a TKO, ground and pound, potentially a win by submission for Moreno. I think the Assassin Baby's got one more run in him at least at 31 years old. And I think Erceg is definitely a tough customer and a really good flyweight from Australia, but he's not Brandon Moreno level. Brandon Moreno wins the fight. Minus 193 for Moreno. Erceg plus 168. I like the chances for Moreno to win. Let's see the odds here. Over 4.5 rounds, minus 240. I don't know why I feel as though violence is a possibility. I don't know. I'm seeing like possibility of Moreno hurting Erceg and submitting Erceg. Over 3.5, minus 250. I don't know. 3 or 4. Something whispers to me. But Moreno goes out and wins a decision. It's not a surprise. I'm not like, yo, he's the lock for a finish. No. I think there's a chance that Erceg, gritty, tough, survives, lands some shots of his own, and loses a competitive fight. But I feel like Moreno, especially in Mexico City, could absolutely be on one and pull off a nice finish and even hurt a Steve Erceg in a pretty good back-and-forth war. So I'm going with Brandon Moreno in the main event to get a 2-fight win streak going and send Erceg in the 3-down trap. Unfortunate for Erceg, man. Erceg's pretty good. It's just this here is it arguably a step up in competition from Kai? Yeah, because Moreno beat Kai Kara-France twice. This is a huge fight for Erceg. He's essentially getting like a chance at the #1 contender fight, or at least like being 1 fight removed from fighting for the belt. Maybe then, you know, fights a #1 contender fight next if he wins, even after 2 straight losses. So he has a massive opportunity here, but I think it's still Moreno's time. At 31, he's absolutely in his prime. He looked really good against Albazi. I think he looked better than ever against Albazi. And I think this could be the best version of Moreno that we have ever seen fighting this Saturday. And I am going to pick Brandon Moreno to win. And I do think he's live for a finish too. I'm taking him over Steve Erceg. I'm going with Mexico's own in Mexico City to cap the card off. We're going with the assassin baby, Brandon Moreno, for the win. Those are the predictions for UFC Mexico City. And damn, I'm excited for this card. Damn, I'm excited for this card. This is a damn good one, man. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Super in-depth, man. We went long today. Over an hour, 15 minutes. I hope you guys loved it. Make sure you all hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the post notifications too, because you don't want to miss a video or live stream. I'm live every day, doing videos pretty much every day of the week, so you don't want to miss the content. Keep it locked in on the channel. I love each and every one of you savages. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think of the predictions. I want to hear from you guys. And if you got nothing to say in the comments, W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you all in the next one. Much love. Peace out.